Well, we are back with the Xavier Builds podcast. This is where we talk all things building, the good, the bad, and everything we can do better. My goal is simple, to give real insight into construction, to sit down with designers, builders, tradies, suppliers, anyone connected to this industry or just passionate about what they do, and share their stories, their challenges, and their wins. Because let's be honest, construction isn't easy. It's tough, it's unpredictable, and sometimes it can feel like everything is against you. But it's also one of the most rewarding industries there is. And when it's done right, it is awesome to work in. That's what this podcast is all about. Talking about what works, what doesn't, and how we can all do better. Having real conversations, not corporate ones. Breaking down the barriers between builders, clients, and the system, and finding a better way forward together. I love hearing people's stories, I love this industry, and I love seeing people passionate about what they do. Look, before we jump in, do me a quick favor. Hit that subscribe button, leave a review, share it with a mate. It really helps get these conversations out there and keeps the momentum going. All right, let's jump into it. Today's guest, AJ Bala. He's the director at DNA Architects, a firm known for winning heaps of awards. We're very, very excited to have AJ today. We're diving into what it really takes to create architecture that builders respect, clients love, and the city benefits from. AJ, great to have you today, mate. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for the invite. Yeah, this is pretty exciting.
Yeah.
And fancy.
Thank you. Thank you. Mate, let's just jump straight into it.
Yeah.
How did you get into architecture?
That's a really good question. It's something that I pondered when you sort of said let's have a chat. What got me into architecture? I don't know what it is actually. I guess my background is that my family moved here from Sri Lanka when I was 3, and I guess displaced as migrants, and moving to Australia. I suppose maybe intrinsically within me there was something about finding shelter and providing shelter that maybe resonated with me. I think that's probably where it started from, to be honest.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's all I could sort of distill it down to, was maybe it had to do with that.
And what, if you were to explain what architecture is to a child, like what would you say that it is?
Yeah,
that's a good question.
That is a really good question. I suppose there's a couple of different levels for me. And this almost goes into a whole lot of stuff with housing and how we perceive housing and what rules and things apply to different things. Is there's a difference between shelter and a house, I suppose. Having shelter is different to having a house, because shelter almost distills it down to the basics. What do you need as basics to live? And that's probably how I'd start off with what architecture starts off as. Obviously, there's an aesthetic element to it, but at its basic form, it's shelter. And I'm only talking about this on a residential level. And architecture on the commercial side of things, or it's probably more to deal with what you're giving back to the community and to the public realm. How does what you design affect how people feel? And that probably is my take on architecture. How does what you design make people feel, both residential and commercial?
That's what I think about when I think of architecture.
Yeah.
Good architecture, to me, invokes a feeling.
Yeah.
You see something and you like it, or you think, oh, that looks a bit edgy, or you think,
and it's so
I want to know more about that.
Yeah, that's right. It's quite a subjective profession, I suppose, from the aesthetic side of things. But if you get the bones of it right, it's how it makes you feel. Is probably how I'd take it. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a really good take. And yeah, I think as well, architecture is so understated in terms of people know what they don't like.
100%.
Like when they see something they don't like, they're very quick to be like, what is that?
Don't like it.
Don't like it, yeah.
But I've found that it almost needs to sit with you for a little bit to maybe understand where it came from, in terms of there's obviously a brief. Now, someone's provided a brief for this to be designed. Maybe trying to understand what that brief was, what the limitations of a site are, and why the designer went that particular way to come up with it. So I think you almost have to look at something, give it a break for a bit and go, maybe absorb it, as opposed to go, shit, that's horrible.
Yeah. Is that part of your process?
Yeah, sometimes. And you might call it designer's block, but I find that designer's block is actually a really good time to sit back and have a look at what you've done and go, is it heading in the right direction? And is this at its core what we set out to achieve? Is it actually heading towards some of those outcomes that we had put into the brief? So you almost take that time to revisit and go, hey, if I was to just go, park this, let's sketch again, would I sketch it the same way? So I use designer's block a different way, and you get it a lot. No, you could just be looking at something for so long that it just doesn't resonate with you, or something doesn't feel quite right. And you're like, I need to do something to either get the creative juices going again, or actually consider, is this heading in the right direction? And that's why it's blocked. Like you're not finding a way to keep moving it forward.
Yeah, because you just get that feeling, right, that it's, it's not quite there. It needs a bit more.
And then you push it, and then you go, oh, here's the presentation. And if you don't believe it 100%, your client's not going to believe it, nor the stakeholders. So I think being really honest and genuine about that is important, because I don't know, not sure if I'm a great bullshitter. So what you see is what you get. So if I'm not invested in it and believe in it 100%, probably not going to present it or have that passion that this is the right answer.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Was there a moment that where you were like, architecture is for me, this is what I want to do?
Yeah, I think so. Outside of what I'd sort of mentioned earlier, I think it was probably a year 4 assignment for me, and it was everyone had to recreate New Parliament House. And back then, what year would it have been? 92? It was new, right? Like it was 4 years old since it opened. So our assignment was to recreate it in whichever medium, however, recreate it to look the way it was. That would have been a year 6 project. And I just loved it. Oh, that was great. Just recreating something that you could sort of see. And I think that was part of not just the design side, but also the making side for me. I really enjoy hands-on, because it helps me understand how things go together and the process it takes to get something perfect and how hard that is. So it helps me with expectations. So I really like the making side of things, and then that assignment sort of combined both of those things together for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And from there, you were just like, that's what I want to do.
Yeah. And I don't know if it really jumped back out again until maybe towards the end of high school, maybe, where you had to start thinking about where you went for work placement and try something during your school holidays. What does that look like? And I think with the background that I've got, that's, I guess, Sri Lankan background, I think there was a lot of pressure, not from my family, but from the smaller community that we had at that time, that you either were not an architect, an engineer, a lawyer, or a doctor, and they were they were sort of the key.
That was the prestige.
That was the prestige spots, whereas architecture not necessarily seen that way. And I don't know why that is. Intrinsically, it should fall in that category, but it doesn't. And I think there was a lot of pressure. Why don't you try engineering to sort of see what that's like? I reckon I lasted 3 hours in the engineer's office. It's just not how my head works. So I did try it. I said, no, if I was to do engineering, what sort of engineering was it? And I looked at aerospace engineering because I love planes and I love cars. And I thought, well, aerospace sort of could probably combine both of those in designing both those things together. Way too much maths.
Way too much maths.
Way too much maths for me anyway.
It sucks the soul out of it. Sucks the soul out of it, yeah.
So I think that sort of really opened my eyes. And I did try a couple of stints of architecture and then 1 or 2 stints of engineering just to make sure that I'm making the right call.
It's good to have that background, though, and be thinking about engineering as an architect, though, right?
Oh, you have to.
Yeah,
you have to. And I think with experience, that almost comes second nature, and it needs to when you're designing to know, well, what is the backspan I need to be able to cantilever this? Is it actually possible?
As a builder, I love hearing that. I really like hearing that because you're thinking about how it actually goes together. And I think one of the key things you've just mentioned as well is that, when you're in year 4 and you're putting together that Parliament House, actually working with your hands and thinking about how it's going together.
Yep.
I think that's a really important skill for architects to have and think about and employ and try and communicate to the people that are actually building it. How they're going to do it.
Absolutely. And I think that there's probably not enough of the hands-on side of things in the course that we study. It almost tends to happen workplace, which is, you think about, say, sport, for example. You don't just turn up to your game and expect to be coached on game day.
Correct.
To do that, right? You're putting a whole lot of work in beforehand to be prepared to turn up and be able to perform on the day. So I think, I'm not saying architecture is like that. I think professional work is like that as well, or workplaces like that. That yes, there's certain things that you learn in the workplace, but there's a whole lot of stuff that you have to do beforehand to prep to be able to get into the workplace and perform at a higher level.
You got to teach yourself some things outside of it so you can be proficient.
100%. Yeah. I remember, skipping forward a little bit in uni, went into 4th year, and just 4th year was probably when you started putting some of the design stuff you'd learned in the first 3 years into practice and go, okay, well, if you're to design this, how does it go together? And because my family had no background in construction or any of that sort of stuff, for me, I was like, I don't know what's going on here. So I had to do a whole lot of research in terms of just library, getting books, and going through how does stuff go together, because it wasn't something that was taught in uni. And I didn't take a year gap between my 2 degrees either, because I was already working in an office. So I was like, well, I'm already working. I don't need the year off. In hindsight, I'd probably taken a year or 2 off and worked in construction. And potentially straight after year 12, as opposed to going straight into
uni.
Yeah. And I just think that there was, maybe it's more of a cultural thing where you get the studies out of the way and then you keep going. But yeah, I think it would have made sense for me I traveled as well. And I think that's probably shifts against the norms for the cultural side of things too. But I think maybe taking that a year off and actually being on the tools, I'd still do it now, to be honest, if I could afford to take a year off.
It's fun being on site. It's fun.
Yeah, I actually really enjoy it. So yeah, I have been offered a couple of apprentice spots with a couple of builders that I've chatted to about this. So,
I'm sure they'd like to get you on site and boss you a little bit.
I think it's one great exercise. I'd much rather do my exercise labouring on site than going to a gym. So that's my mindset. I can't handle spaces that you go to for single-use things.
Yeah.
I'd rather do that as sort of part of my everyday.
You just have that internal fight with your brain. If you're on a treadmill or something like that, get off. What
is this?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm at the gym exercising.
Yeah. So, you've worked across everything from high-end residential to multi-unit. What's been your biggest learning curve?
You're not always right. So it's
tell us more about that.
And I think that's true for everyone, to be honest. But maybe architects take that a bit too seriously in wanting to be right with a direction, and you're not always. So it's always good to maybe park the ego sometimes and go, well, if we were to look at this big picture, are we still getting the outcomes that we set out to do? And is there a better way to do this? And if that idea comes from someone else in the team, not the consultant, from the builder, probably doesn't matter, as long as we're focused on the outcome for the client. I think that's a big part of what our business is about. It's very people focused, I suppose, in terms of whether it's our staff, whether it's our clients, stakeholders, that we've got a good relationship with that team, that we can talk comfortably and frankly, and no one gets offended. And you obviously you approach it differently, and communication styles are quite different. And you just need to know what that style is to communicate effectively, I suppose. So, I think that's probably what I've learned.
And expand on why that's so important for the build, for the client, for the project as a whole.
Yeah, because I think sometimes you might get clouded with wanting to be right as opposed to wanting to get the outcome. And sometimes they may not align. You being right may get the wrong outcome. So you almost have to revisit that a little bit to sort of maybe get back on the page. And it can happen. And it's, it might be a detail that you looked at and you're like, I've looked at this forever. This is the right detail and this is how I want it to work. But in practice, when you get out to site, does it actually work? Like maybe we can come up with a different approach to this, still get the same intent. As long as the intent is maintained, then the outcome should work still. But it may just be how you're trying to approach that problem.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
What I will say too is I think architects are under a lot of pressure in builds. I think it's a bit understated. Like they're the one that everyone goes to. Or like a lot of the project success is on their shoulders.
Yep.
The clients are probably always, in your ear asking for this, asking for this. I feel like sometimes it can be missed if you're a builder or you're a tradie on site, or even if you're the client as well, the actual pressure that is put onto an architect throughout a project.
Yep.
Because, if something goes wrong or something isn't done 100% or misses the intent, it always comes back to the architect.
Yeah, absolutely. And regardless of apportioned blame, it does. You're right. But what I find is, going back to what I said about communication, if I'm on site, I think having a really good rapport with not just the consultant and the builder, but the trades on site is really important, because I find that those are the guys that are on the ground doing the work, that if you've got a really open communication style with the trades, they're a lot more comfortable and willing to maybe get an outcome that you've sort of, there's a bit of detail in that, but hey, we've chatted to him and he's not a dickhead, which is a good start. Well, depends who you talk to, I suppose.
Yeah.
So that's a good start. And then I feel like it just opens up that communication and the dialogue a little bit more, having a pretty open chat, as opposed to just coming out onto site, talking to just the client, just the builder or the PM on site, and then getting off site. It doesn't really open that dialogue up with anyone else on a building site, which is important. I think you need to be able to, I don't know if hold attention is the word. I think you need to be able to walk onto a site and be able to constructively chat about stuff, and that people don't just think you're full of shit.
Yeah.
There's a balance between the joking side and the actual professional side of what you're doing.
Definitely. And what you just mentioned there about talking to the trades, I think is really important. I have a memory of when I was an apprentice, and I feel like when you are an apprentice, you almost, it's like it's bashed into you that the architects are the bad guys. And that when the architect turns up, here we go.
Yeah.
And I remember doing this build in Monica, and the architect would turn up in his Porsche and he would get out white pants, boots, pink shirt on, and he would walk through the site, and he was very, very intimidating for me as an apprentice, right?
Yeah.
But he actually took the time to come over and ask me how I was going and what was going on, and I was like, oh, okay. And I really, really appreciated that.
He's
and
just fashionable.
Yeah. But like he was really fashionable, but I was like so intimidated. And then I couldn't work out why he wanted this certain detail on a window.
Yeah.
And, he came over and explained it to me, and I was like, oh, okay. It makes complete sense now. Like, and that's going to look fantastic when it's all done.
Yeah.
And like from that point on, I was like, I don't know.
It's just breaking the ice, I suppose.
Yeah.
And making sure that people feel like they can approach you. If you're not approachable, you're probably not doing your job. And I say that, but there's definitely moments that people might find me unapproachable, I suppose, depending on how intense that conversation is or what it's about. I think you still have to hold your ground on certain things that are important to the outcome, but there might be different ways to achieve that outcome. So you've still got to be open to...
Yeah. And that's what I mean about the pressure that architects have got on their shoulders throughout a project. I think that it can get missed a little bit, that everything comes back to you. You've done the design, you've done all the details, you know how you want it done, and you're communicating for the client, or the client's got you on board because they believe in the style that you do things in.
Yeah. And I think the most successful projects for me have been where the builder has been on board early-ish, so they understand the intent of, and you know what? It's not just the builder, it's the engineer. So both the engineer and the builder have been on board early, and they understand the intent of the design. Not the aesthetic finish, that's a different thing.
Yeah.
The intent of the design, and can we meet the intent if a detail was to change? Everyone's on the same page with that, which then makes it a lot easier on site going, hey, this doesn't meet that intent, or you know what, done it differently, that's cool, intent still met.
Yeah.
So it's definitely having that early discussion with a builder, for me anyway, and an engineer. Like, you get a feel for what the engineering should be. I'm not an engineer, but you get a feel for it, and I usually run it past going, hey, this is the strategy for this, for it to do this. Can we achieve it? And sometimes it's yes, sometimes it's no. Sometimes we fight over 50 mil, and sometimes you dig your heel in over that 50 mils because it makes a difference. So, and yeah, the engineers I've worked with will vouch both ways on that, where you give up some and you don't sometimes.
Yeah. It's there's so much off that I could talk about. But we've just spoken about intent a fair bit there. Explain intent.
I suppose the intent is, for me, the way I see the intent is that if we were to take away all the fancy stuff, do the bones still work, and does it respond to the site and the brief? And rural projects are a key one for this having to be really strong. Otherwise, it just goes sideways really quickly, because you don't have the constraints you do in an urban setting with setbacks and overlooking and overshadowing, and all that stuff sort of disappears.
You sort of go crazy out there.
Yeah, you can go crazy. You can do whatever you want, right? That's harder for an architect to do whatever you want. So you're almost looking at the site analysis side of things really closely, very early, going, what's the site? How does something sit? Where's the wind coming from? Where are the views? Where are the key trees on site that I want to pick up and maybe highlight as part of the design? And then this is the client brief. So how does all that stuff plug back into this?
Yeah.
And then how strong is the intent of this design? And I guess I've gone through this just recently with our build. We've just built out of town, more in a rural setting.
Was that difficult for you?
It was, yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I mean, we were very lucky that we had all those key items, that the views, the trees, we had some hard parts with having a gully running through the middle of our building envelope. How do you deal with that? So all those things is the site analysis side of things. And then designing something, we actually wrote a brief. Even though we're architects, we found that we had to write a brief so we knew what. My wife and I, we both worked on the project, and she works in the office with us, and we both wrote the brief together, so we knew what we were aiming for. So when we sort of went, hey, what about this? What about this? What about this? And you sort of bolt things on as you go, and you get to that last bit, and you're like, oh, that's nothing like what we sort of
the center lines. The center lines.
It's moved left really quickly. So it's having that brief is really important to almost anchor the direction. And then if we can get that right, the bones, I call the bones of that project, and the bones and the intent are almost one and the same for me.
Yeah.
And if we can get that right, then that's great.
The look, I get the look, and the intent is around the look and the feel and the function.
Yeah,
right?
That's right. Yeah, correct.
Yeah,
that's right. So if we can get it looking roughly like this, great. But the intent can also change during a project. Now, the brief might slightly change, which could then change the intent, which then change the aesthetics of it.
Yeah.
But if the bones are still good, the intent can maybe tweak a little bit as you go, as long as you're aware that it's tweaking.
So it can evolve over the project.
Yeah, I think so.
To meet, say, different requirements, or you've seen the site, you've seen how it is, and Maybe you want to change this little thing because there's a tree you've decided that you want to look at.
Yeah,
Is that
that's
what
right.
you mean?
Yeah, I think so. And also, your family situation might change during a build. You might be a family of 4 and you then go, you know what, we're having another baby. So
That's happening
maybe
with
the
me at the
intent,
moment.
well, so that intent may be that now you're trying to house a family of 5 as opposed to a family of 4, and then you're sort of looking at, well, the intent is now a little bit different. Can the aesthetics stay the same? Probably, and that can be maintained, but that core brief has changed. So you've got to be really mindful of intent, bones, and brief, and how they all sort of work together.
Is that something you learn as a young architect, or is that something that you've developed, or is that where's that come from? Because I'm getting that brief at the start. That's obviously really important, and you need to have that.
Yeah, 100%. It's how you interpret the brief. And I think to answer your question really quickly, it is that you probably learn it as you get experience. For me, that was the case. I wouldn't say I'm a naturally talented architect. I think I had to work.
I think there's a lot of people that disagree with that you are naturally talented, and I think
It's
you've got a
not,
lot of
It's
awards.
not where I am. It's probably not where my head's at. I feel like there was a lot of, for me, not having a family in that construction industry, or even, I guess, design. There was some design and business in my background.
In your family?
My mum, she ran her own business in clothing.
Yep.
Back in Sri Lanka. So there was.
So you had that
creative side was always there, and it's not till COVID when I launched the t-shirt business that I realized that actually this is going off our family business from Sri Lanka before we left.
How awesome is that?
So I was able to sort of resonate a little bit more with that and understand it a little bit better. So, but yeah, that creative side was always there, and my dad was always very hands-on. So growing up, he would show me how to do stuff on the car, change the oil, flush the coolant, do sparkies, all that stuff. He taught me how to do it. So I felt comfortable doing it. So maybe the making side was from him because he would just do stuff. He was probably street smart.
Yep.
And whereas my mum was a lot more creative. So I think
there's
there was different things that I could take away from both sides actually. And I don't think you come to realize that till you're older. You kind of think it's all you.
Yeah.
That's how you go, actually.
Do a bit of a self-assessment.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I do think as well, coming into the construction industry and not having anyone in construction sort of in your family, that can be a bit of a benefit too, because you can really, there's no like constraints then.
Yeah,
you can sort of think outside the box a bit because you don't know what the box is.
100%. And that, I think that is probably, if I was to think of a design style, it'd probably be, I'm happy to go unorthodox if we have to. Like, you don't force it, but it doesn't stop me going, hey, it should kind of be done this way. Like, well, why should it be done that way?
Yep.
Well, it's how we've always done it. Well,
that's not.
You know what they say about stagnant water.
That's right. That's exactly right.
So I think I'm a little bit more open to trying or doing it a little bit differently. And that's probably both business and professional side, I suppose. That just because it's always been done a certain way doesn't mean it has to be. If it ain't broke, you don't need to fix it.
Yes,
sure.
Yeah.
But can it be better?
Well, I think that's, yeah. And playing out in that space, it breeds so much more creativity and innovation. And does it keep you motivated? Because
I think it does. Absolutely. I think that pushes me to do things differently. It gives you different avenues to maybe, now even as architects as a business, it's not something that architects are taught how to do. We don't do any business training. We're trained in architecture and the design side. We don't really even have the practical skills when you come out of uni to know how things go together as well until you start working in it or you do a trade and get a feel for it. So that really is something that, it's important.
And so what else keeps you motivated? Because
what else keeps me motivated? Work-wise?
Work-wise, yeah.
I think it's the business of architecture is really important for me because, like I was saying, it's not something you get taught, and there's so many businesses that operate well and not well because they don't know how to.
Mm.
If I was to sort of go, well, what should I have done in uni to sort of complement my architecture? I would have said it's outside of a trade. It's probably some business courses.
Mm.
And how do you actually run the business to understand that? And I was very fortunate with Ross and Glenn, who are the founding directors of DNA, that they are very business savvy. So learning off them has been a massive benefit for me.
Mm-hmm.
To understand that there is actually a business outside of architecture that you're, as a director now, that you're having to run and be responsible for. So you, as a director, there is a real need to act in the best interests of the business.
Mm.
What's the best interests of the business? And are we doing everything we can for the business of, say, DNA to operate? That has not necessarily everything to do with the architecture side of it, because the architecture side is the creative side.
That's
It's
right.
the professional side.
They're two separate things.
They are two separate things.
And we're at a little bit of a disadvantage in construction in that there isn't many, like, you do the builder's course, they teach you a little bit about it, but not very much at all. If you're a tradie, there's nothing in the, like, there's nothing.
How do you run a
TAFE.
business?
They
What do you keep receipts? Like, is that it?
That's right. That's right. You sort of got to work it out yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you're not like on the money with it, and you're not making decisions in the best interest of your business, then you can quickly come unstuck.
It can, and I think it's a trap I've seen for lots of young businesses, whether that's across trade or across our industry, that you get that little bit of success, which is great, but it's almost like
it's a double edge.
Yeah, it is a double edge because it's almost like summer in Canberra, where you get these. No, you get a week of like 25, 26 degree days, and then you'll get this 12-degree day. And you're like, the fuck was that? And if it's same with business, a young business where you get a year of success or 2 years of success, but if you haven't really thought about it and got a long-term plan, then that year or 18 months of maybe downturn, have you actually planned for it, or have you spent all your profit on promoting the business and doing it a certain way? I've actually labelled all my utes and I've got
no more cash,
brand new utes, and there's no cash.
Yeah,
I haven't paid any long service leave and tax. Didn't do that, or the super, because it's I'm a contractor.
Yeah, I've been on site. I thought about it. Yeah.
So there's a whole lot of different things that comes, and I feel for you guys, because as a young tradie, you're not taught that stuff, and it should be something that you're taught. That if you're contracting, there's a whole lot of stuff that you need to be paid for that you need to actually put aside. Otherwise, you'll become unstuck really quickly. Yeah,
I see a lot of people get taken advantage of by other companies that are,
and it's just not it's an education thing, right? It's like most things. If you're educated about it, you can make the right decision, or the decision for you. It may not be the right decision for everyone, but at least you know what the outcome or the consequences of the decisions you're making are.
Yeah.
So I think you have to make mistakes to learn, right?
You do.
You never learn by being right all the time. That probably links back into what I was saying to you about knowing that you can be wrong, is that actually being wrong isn't a bad thing. It's maybe an opportunity to grow and understand a little bit more. And if you keep making the same mistakes, you're an idiot.
Yes.
Just make different ones.
That's right.
Just make different mistakes, and I think you learn more that way. So
100%. You've got to be making mistakes to be able to learn.
Otherwise, you're in your comfort zone.
That's exactly right.
And you just get comfortable, and then you just it becomes a grind. And I think that's what, to click back into what you just asked, that's what keeps me motivated, is that I don't want to be in this routine of every day being the same. And that if you're making mistakes and doing things a little bit differently, it gives you that variance that you need, or the variation to keep you interested.
Definitely.
Hey, I can do that today.
Yeah.
And I think as you get more experience, I suppose, in your field, that's easier to understand. Definitely not easy to understand 2 years out of uni going, what are they talking about? Who's enjoying this?
Now I've got a couple of questions here from a builder. He's asked me to ask you these questions.
Yeah, tell me.
There's two types of architects.
One that likes to be heavily involved in the construction and supply loads of detail and supervision, and the other who likes to deliver design intent with very little detail and stay out of the contract admin. Which one are you, AJ, and why?
I'd say I'd lean more towards a second.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, the intent is core for me. The detail, and I've worked with a lot of different builders, and different builders approach it a different way. There's a few that understand the intent and will do the right thing in terms of how they implement that, if that makes sense. Whereas you can then come unstuck with that methodology where it goes in the wrong direction, where you're not consulted at all. So
Yeah.
I think
So it depends on the builder, really.
I think it does. And knowing what you can and can't get away with.
Yeah.
Say if it's a builder I haven't worked with, but sort of know their work, I would still probably err towards that first typology that you mentioned.
Well, you're guaranteeing the outcome really there, though.
On the first project.
Yeah, for sure.
And then I think once that first project is out of the way and you go, okay, well, this is the outcome from that.
Yep.
I could probably then shuffle to then that second typology for consequent projects, because you know how they're delivering it.
You get a bit of a feel for how you work together,
and how things work on site. And there's builders that'll draw details on frames.
Yeah.
And on plasterboard as they're going and go, hey, what do you think? Cool. That's fine. Let's just do it that way. It's hard to, I don't even think it's realistic to document every detail, nook and cranny of a project, whether it's resi, commercial, industrial. It's just not feasible. There's always going to be details that'll pop up during that construction phase where it has to be a sketch on the ground or on a frame to go, okay, let's just do that. Send you a photo of it.
That's what a good builder is, right?
It is, yeah. I mean, they need to be thinking about it too.
Yeah.
And they're going, well, if I did this detail instead of what was in that pack of drawings down the track, is that going to be an issue for this awning that I'm putting on? And was it done a certain way? So I think you have to be thinking 10 steps ahead to be able to do that. And that comes with experience as well. There's some very talented young builders that have got it straight up.
Yeah.
And I'm in awe of that, because that's, like I said, for me, it took a lot of time to be comfortable in my own skin, to know, to feel that I know what I'm talking about, or to maybe appreciate how others saw me. And I think that's just a me thing.
That's a really good take, actually.
So it's
yeah.
I'm
going to jump into the state of the industry now.
Oh, fun stuff.
This is the fun stuff. What's the biggest challenge you see in how we build today, especially in Canberra?
I think there's I'm going to use a real wanky word, juxtaposition. There's a real juxtaposition between where we want to head in terms of the need for housing that's affordable and the density, with how we might be trying to implement that. They're really
fighting each other.
Yeah. So how do we actually do that? And it's almost a consequence of our own good stuff as a city, because we didn't get into that density stuff, say 20, 30 years ago when the rest of Australia, the bigger cities were. It was easier to do the density back then. Whereas we're like, well, this is a different master plan. It's a planned city. This is how we're doing it. And density is not something that's going to happen here. It is. Now, we've grown into a city that needs the density. We're growing to over 750,000 people in the next 20 years, 30 years or so.
That's a big influx.
It is, yeah. How do we...
We're sitting at 400 now or something like that, maybe 380.
Or something, 470, I think, something like that.
Yeah.
Close to 500,000. So there's going to be some population growth. Does the bones of the concept of the layout of Canberra accommodate this? And I don't know if enough people question that. So I question that a little bit, that is the Garden City master plan able to accommodate density? So are we trying to get density and then maintain this master plan intent? And are they sort of really pushing hard against each other? And then with all the other, let's say, government taxes and things that go along with that, does it actually make it viable to deliver that type of product?
It's a weird situation, isn't it?
It is.
And if you're listening to this, not following along, essentially what we're talking about is the way that Canberra's been designed. Does it work for bringing in more population into these denser areas, right?
Yeah.
And has
And it's maybe the zoning, and the zoning where you've got this zoning where only specific things in specific spots are allowed. Why? Shouldn't people have the choice of going, you know what, I'm going to buy in middle of Braddon and live there, but I'm aware that there's pubs down here and there's nightlife. That's why I'm here. So I can't really complain about the noise and the time of night that the lights go out. So yeah, I think it's definitely a perception thing from Canberra. We've sort of grown from this really rich regional country town, actually, where it's essentially we have a main road and bits and pieces off it, really, to this city now where we've got infrastructure going in to be able to, for public transport, obviously the light rail and that happening. But we're still really trying to hold on to this Garden City thing, which isn't a bad thing. Yes, we're a bush capital and I'm all for it. I think what we've got's great. But are they just pushing that hard that it's either one or the other, or is there actually a balance? And is the balance the outcome that we need for the density? So I'm not sure.
This is that buzzword that you would have probably heard on the news, which is missing middle.
Yes.
We have a missing middle.
Yeah.
And that's where these multi-res sites around shops and stuff like that are going to become more prominent. That's my take on it.
Yes.
I saw a plan for Belconnen. There's 10 towers or something going out there.
Yeah.
That's a hell of a lot of people in that area.
Yeah.
Are we set up for that? I think these are all the questions you've got to be starting to think about.
Yeah.
And is that the way that we want Canberra to go? I think it's a good direction to go in.
Yep.
I think that we are missing that. There's a lot of older people that are, say, on a 1,500 square meter block, and it's just the two of them in the house, and they would benefit from something near the shops, a nice, townhouse or duplex or something like that.
And that's a downsizing or aging in place.
Yes,
sort of set up.
Exactly.
Which is really what some of the suburbs need. Say those key ones in a north, more so than in a south.
Yeah.
Like your Turners, your Braddons, Dixon, Lynham, O'Connor, they're prime for that type of stuff, right? Where you've got people that have lived in there. I'm actually working on a project where the neighbour is the only house left in the whole section. Everything else has been sort of densified.
Yeah.
And he's 92 and had a meeting with him because we're doing the project on the north side of his block. And just the nicest bloke. He goes, you know what, I bought this when there was just fields and I was the first one on the street. But I understand that we're moving in a direction now where it's density, and I get that. But I don't want to stand in the way of what's happening, but I just want to make sure I'm getting my amenity. For that type of neighbour, you go that extra mile to make sure that you're doing the right thing by them as well, because they're more worried about other people than themselves, which makes you almost reciprocate that
100%.
A lot further than you would if there was more of a standoffish approach to that.
Yeah.
So I think that for him, is there a way he can age in place? And I said, hey, would you move to something that's a little bit smaller because you don't use 2 of your bedrooms at the moment? Just your bedroom. I just love my yard. I don't think I'd ever downsize, but I don't want to stop other people from doing what they want to do or need to do. So, but I'm happy to age in place here.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to stop other people from doing stuff. So I feel like that's a no bullshit approach to life, really.
100%. You can see that. Like if I was in his position, I'd be like, no, I want to go out into the backyard and tinker in the garden and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's right. And you get
what a nice guy.
Yeah, and that was just a really lovely response when we've had so many negative sort of feedback on, oh, this looks like shit. I don't know why you're doing this. You're killing the inner north. Now, there's a whole lot of commentary that we get back when we put a DA in for, say, even a small medium density sort of project. Then you're you don't have to be like that about it. Like,
I know.
just because you've got it, you don't want to share it with anyone else. You don't want anything else to happen because this is your bit and you're the only person that matters. Like, it feels like a little bit.
100% get that. Yeah. And it's almost like you wish you could get that person and sit them down in a room and just really talk to them about your vision and why you're doing it.
Yep.
And then they'd be able to understand it from your perspective and see that you're actually benefiting the area.
And that's why the communication is really important. That's why we got this fella in and said, hey, come in, let's explain it. We'll get the 3D up. We'll show you where the shadows and like the sun hits, that it won't affect you if your living space is on this edge.
Yeah.
It won't affect you, and see if you're still comfortable or not comfortable with it. So, yeah. So it was refreshing, I suppose,
Absolutely.
to have a neighbour that way.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. It just brought up an interesting thought for me. I want to talk about a negative part of architects, and that's some architects seem to want to bring down other architects. Do you think there's a problem there?
100% there is a problem.
Yeah.
And it couldn't be further from the truth for me.
Yep.
I think we're all sort of colleagues, to be honest. I don't see it as competition. And if I do see it as competition, I think that good competition is good for the city. Now, if you're competing hard and doing good design work and making your clients happy and there's a good word of mouth, that's a good thing. We've collaborated with lots of architects in the last few years in terms of the project work that we do. Especially for me, I work probably a little bit more on the master planning side of things, where we've collaborated a lot more with other firms, both national, international, local as well. And it just gives you a different perspective on how people work. And I think it's such a positive. And even at events, like, I think there are some people that see you as competition, and I don't necessarily see that. I think you can all. There's enough work to go around, and I don't think anyone's stepping on anyone's toes, and you're not outwardly going to steal clients or anything like that. That's just not.
Yeah.
That's not how it works. But yeah,
one architect in particular that comes to mind. He's out of Adelaide, and he's very active on Instagram, and he's always bringing up other people's designs and stuff like that, and tearing them to pieces. And I don't know. A lot of people follow him and a lot of people like all of his stuff. But I'm like, hey, there's a lot of work that went into that design. And if the client wants that, then this architect hasn't done the wrong thing.
No, and that's why I said at the start, thinking about absorbing it, going, well, there was a reason why it landed this way.
Yeah.
And it's easy for you to find that if you're willing to put that type of criticism out there, that you've got to be willing to take it, because it'll come back tenfold. So it's easier you can have an opinion, obviously, but I think that you need to consider why a design's turned out the way it has. Sometimes it's out of their control.
Well, that's what I was just about to mention. Like, it's almost like you're an artist, right? And you've got a brief from a client to do a certain painting, and some other artist comes along and says, I hate that. The way he's done that, I don't like it.
Subjective. You can hate it or not.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. I guess that's unique to architecture in that you don't.
It is, yeah. But also, I think you've got to have a thick skin, right? Like, we've sort of spoken about architecture being a professional industry, and yeah, it is. I guess it's white collar, but we really should be seen as construction industry, which is a different kettle of fish.
I see you guys as construction industry, for sure.
I think we're probably a little bit rougher around the edges, and also need to be. I say thick-skinned, and that, I don't know if that's the right word, because that doesn't mean you put up with shit. Being thick-skinned is not putting up with shit from site or from contractors or from consultants or clients. I think it's just being able to have open, honest conversations and not get offended.
Yeah.
And there's a difference. I won't put up with bullshit, but I'm very open to have an open, honest conversation about it and see where two people sit on a certain thing. And let's just agree to disagree, but how do we actually get an outcome? Like, we can't both disagree and just go away. That's a useless meeting.
Yeah.
So
I feel like that is getting lost a little bit in society today, is that we can disagree and that's okay.
It's fine.
You know what I mean? Like, I feel like today it's like, oh no, you don't agree. What? You have to agree. And it's like, no, you can have your opinion, I'll have my opinion.
That's cool for you to do that.
Yeah. And I feel like that's where it can be engaging. And that's where
so.
You can come to a creative solution.
But it also opens your own mind to how someone else is thinking.
Mm.
Now, I think growing up, I had a real maybe a cultural effect where you sort of cared what everyone thought and their opinion because you didn't want to bring shame on the family or there's a certain expectation. And I think that sort of shaped my early years as a designer, where you cared too much about what people thought. And I think as you get a bit more experience, I think you become more. And I don't think that's a cultural thing. I think just in general, I think the more experience you get, the more comfortable you become in your own skin, and that you're able to maybe consider things more before you talk. That's probably one of the key lessons that I've been taught or been told is that if you can be the last one to speak, you get a feel for what the room is thinking, and then you can constructively respond, as opposed to wanting to be the first person in to say what you think and then have the meeting run around you, be last to speak. And that's worked really well for me, that you can then consider everyone's opinion. And as an architect, you're almost in this more mediating role as well between the client, the builder, the consultants. You sort of sit as a mediator, and we say counselor when we've got doing a house because it's husband and wife or partners, and you're sort of dealing with internal.
100%.
Yeah, but that's why we found COVID so difficult doing stuff online is you couldn't pick up the body language, and that's why we have our initial meetings on site or face to face or in person. Sorry, so we can pick up the body language of who's making decisions, who's making calls, what's important to who. And that's just sitting here chatting to someone and understanding where they're coming from. You don't get it on Teams.
That's right.
So we sort of missed that. So I think that's really important to be able to have a useful interaction is that if you can be last to speak and actually offer maybe a value add as opposed to a negative going, this is going really shit. Don't want to do that. Don't want to do this. We're doing it this way. Go, well, let's hear what everyone has to say. And then maybe you go, hey, I think that works, but maybe if we did it this way, we'd still get that. Or my design actually does that. Don't know if you can see it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think you can, as a young person, not a young person, maybe a less experienced person, I think you almost want to jump in first so you feel like there's a little bit of authority and people listening to what you're saying. So I get that as well because I think you need to, but in that process you almost shoot yourself in the foot.
100%.
Yeah.
I think the last to speak wins generally because they've considered everything.
Yeah, I think it's a considered response.
Yeah.
And I think that's important. That it's a considered response as opposed to a response as opposed to reaction because I think you can definitely react.
You can get all the information.
Yeah.
Everyone's talking about housing affordability. How do you think design plays a role in solving that? I've had a couple
Interesting question.
Yeah, I've had a couple of people on the energy efficiency side come through and have a chat, and I'm really, really interested. I feel like
what was their take on that? Because if you were to summarize it,
the take generally it is passive house is great, but we don't have to have the passive house name up the top.
Gotcha.
We can do a lot of things and change construction methods slightly to bring the R value of a home right up and the feel of a home right up.
Yeah.
But we don't need to be, spending an extra X amount of dollars to have this certain brand up the top.
Gotcha.
I think that's been a big thing. And then that is obviously going to lower the price of construction a little bit. I think lower energy costs, which is always going to be better. So to summarize it, I feel like there's a golden ticket in there somewhere with design and considering energy efficiency and then looking at the way that we can do that for housing affordability. Because if you build a house that's really well built, meaning it performs well, efficiently, it's
there's a longer term gain.
There is a longer term gain over the lifespan of that home.
Yes,
you're not spending $4,000 a quarter on your
electricity
bills. You know, so I think that's the point I like to ask everyone about with design and that housing affordability.
Yeah,
I think we can get something happening there.
Look, I think there's definitely scope, and it really comes back to that getting the core things right. You know, we don't necessarily advertise ourselves as environmental architects. Every architect should be environmental, and that's our belief, that it shouldn't be something that you market yourself on, because it should be intrinsically built into the design of how you design.
Yep.
So the bones of a house, and I spoke about this earlier, the bones of the house need to be right. You need it to be facing the right way. You need to be picking up the views if that's the feel that you're after. It's got to be doing all that stuff anyway. The stuff that we're talking about is things, it's material things, right? Windows, double glazed. Like these should just be the cream on top that get it to that, the 0.1, 0.2, the 0.4. It shouldn't be what we're relying on to get from 4 to 6.
Correct. Yes.
Because there's something intrinsically wrong if that's what you're trying to do, and pump it up with, okay, we're going to do R6 instead of R2.5 in the walls.
You're chasing your tail then, no? You
are.
Yeah.
But that's not to say you can't do R6 in the walls. If that's part of the design intent, go, you know what, we're going to do 150 mil or 300 mil walls. And that's the design intent of this house, that we're putting R6 in the walls. But that's how we've designed it.
It's a big bat.
You're not trying to put it, you're not trying to put it in afterwards into a 90 mil stud, right?
Yeah.
That's just madness. So it's so I was thinking about what those important things are from the bones. Is it facing the right way? And I know everyone says face north. Okay, sure.
You can't. Yeah. The block's
but-
not facing that way.
This is a challenge we came up with against in our design for our place. So we're in Womboyd, and we're built over a gully, because that's just where the gully was. That's where the building envelope is. So we had to raise our house up off the ground so you don't get flooded. We didn't flatten the site. We cut a small part of it, and then the rest is up off the ground. And that was the design intent of that design, because it had to be. But the view is south or southwest, back to Canberra, which is it's a challenge.
It's
right?
a challenge.
And no, straight off for me, it's like if you do a deep floor plate, that's not going to work, because you don't pick up the view, you don't get the north, nothing's sort of going hand in hand. So for that particular design, a narrow floor plate that was probably more a simple design was the right answer. But that's intrinsically in that first look at it. Now, if you have a shallow floor plate, light penetrates roughly 8 meters through a window. So if you can keep it under 8 meters, you should technically get northern sun hitting your southern windows in the middle of winter, where you can sit then on, say, a bench seat on that southern window edge, get northern sun and still get the view. But that doesn't lend itself to getting a project home and putting it on the site, because it's not as specific. A shallow floor plate is specific for that, and it works for that. It may not work on every rural block. It just works for that one. Other people might have a brief that goes, you know what, we want to contain our dogs within our house, and they've got an outdoor space. That's more of a courtyard house if you want to do it on a rural block. It's not the same design. So knowing what that design intent is and how you deal with different floor plates and depths and directions is important, because east is great. West is great.
Yeah.
Yes, we get predominant northwesterlies. So think about what spaces you put on that northwest side. How do you shade that? What do you, where are your outdoor spaces that are covered, and are you doing them in the right spots? Like those are bones of design that really need to be thought through before you get to the point where you go, okay, well, what type of windows? Well, the size of them should have been the first consideration.
Yeah.
And then, if it's argon filled or double glazed, I think that's academic at the end. No, that should just be the cherry on top, going, okay, well, let's go thermally broken, double glazed, because I can get away with a basic double glaze, but I want to make it a little bit better. So let's go a little bit of a step up.
And that's going to perform better for me because it's in this area, and I've already considered it.
It's already been considered. We've got shorter windows on the southern side, so we still get the views, but we've got bigger windows on the northern side, so that sun comes in the full depth of a floor plate. So you can't approach it where you're relying on your windows, your insulation to get you over the line when you're that far away. That's just the me thing.
It's considering the site, how it's going to work,
Yeah.
what you need out of it, and that comes back to that brief you were talking about, right?
Yeah.
And everything around that, and then the intent from there moving forward.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and if you've got that really core idea, you can try and maintain that and preserve it. But I think that's probably one of the advantages of working with an architect is they should be considering that stuff early. It shouldn't just be.
It's intrinsically in you guys, isn't it?
It is. Yeah.
That's what built. That's why you employ an architect for these things.
I mean, the first degree that I guess Ross, Glenn, and myself did were all in environmental design. Like the first 3 years is heavily focused on that. It's changed now at the uni.
Is that essentially take the environment that the houses or the orientation, all of that, take that into consideration?
Take it into consideration.
Yeah.
And it should be the building blocks of how you design. And it is your job, I guess, as a designer to advise your client that this is the best direction to go because of X, Y, and Z. Go, no, I want this here. Well, okay, that's cool. How do we get that there and still maintain that integrity?
Do you think that that's something that is broken in the design construction relationship? It needs to be fixed? Like,
not the design construction relationship, maybe more in the design relationship with planning.
With planning.
And rules and
we're talking about what's wrong with construction.
Yeah, I think there's some real bit of grinding, I suppose, with what the policy is to then what the outcome we're wanting is. They're almost, again, beating each other up. We're talking about wanting to get level threshold, say, for example, and how do we deal with that? But then you're putting out land that's on hills. What's the balance there? Like you can't say on one hand we need to get level thresholds and everything needs to be on grade, and then give sites that you're releasing as greenfield sites that are all on 1 in 5 slopes. Like it's not feasible, and then you don't get the outcome. Then you get this house that's on a massive cut one side, fill on the other. You don't get good outcomes for the city then. And I think that's really important, that if you can get, when I say the bones, I was talking about the
structure, right?
The structure, or the how you plan and design the house. And I'm only talking about the housing at this point because it's, I guess, what we're sort of discussing. When you look at taking it a step further back, the planning of subdivisions should take this into account. When you're designing a suburb, thinking about the way that you're facing it in the topography, and can a house designed on this actually get 7-star rating? Are we putting the roads in the right direction? Yes, we might be following contours, but does it give us like predominantly south-facing blocks where you've got south to the rear and you've got all your northern space in a front yard?
Yeah.
Makes it really difficult to sort of work. It's a different style of house that can work for, but that adds cost. So if we can get the start of it right with how we plan our suburbs and the layouts, then there can go a long way to considering then what the homes that go on it could be built for, and the cost and the implications of, you would know, like cutting a site is going to cost like the earthworks and that.
Yeah, and it's money. It's money that you don't.
Retaining walls.
Yeah, it's money you don't. It's money you don't see and you don't appreciate, really.
That's right. Yeah,
and
money where you can see it.
Exactly. Like if I tell someone we've got to cut this whole backyard down, or we've got to do a whole heap.
You're retaining and you're waterproofing and you're aggie lining.
All of that stuff. It's thankless stuff. You know, and there's heaps of work that goes into it, but you don't really appreciate it.
And no one wants to pay it.
No one wants to pay it, no.
It's an extra $120K in site costs.
That's it.
No.
When you zoom right out, it seems really, really simple. There's a field over there, just put a house on it. But when you zoom right in, it is really, really complex. But I think what you're saying is if we just take a little bit more time and plan things out a bit better, then we're going to have a way better outcome, money-wise.
Yep.
So bring the cost of the construction down. Energy efficiency wise, all of these things considered is going to be a way better outcome.
Yeah, and I would hope that the designers that are working on the subdivisions consider this stuff. That when you do a block layout, that you're going, well, can each one of these meet a 7-star rating. Because if we were to look at how we approach, say, a multi-unit site,
Yeah.
we look at a multi-unit site and go, okay, well, we can fit X amount of dwellings into this, but how many of them are going to get energy ratings that pass?
Yeah.
Is the same happening when you do a suburban site or a suburb and you're going, well, we've got 120 lots in this. How many of these are going to actually meet 7 stars? Like, is that exercise being done? Whereas when it's on paper, you could probably still do that and get a feel for it. In saying that, there are still creative ways to get 7-star rated homes on difficult sites. It's still possible.
There's always a way. I guess
There's always a way.
We're asking for a little bit more forethought at the start.
Yeah, that's right.
My thing with the government is all the intent is right.
Yeah.
Everything that they're bringing in, they're talking about, it's all really good in theory, and it's all
but it's still in theory.
But in practice, it can be difficult. And I think if there was a bit of grey area for us to play in, it'd be much nicer.
Yeah, and I think that's what they're trying to sort of bring in, but it's just how you.
The problem with that grey area is people just take the piss.
Well, it can be subjective too, right?
Yeah.
No, you go to say an ACAT for it. That's how are they looking at it subjectively? They can't. So it kind of needs to be, if we're looking at it subjectively, well, then the decision from the planning authority is the final decision, because you've looked at it subjectively and go, yes, that's right. We agree with you. It's design excellence. Now, what is that? What is design excellence? Like, it's different to you than it is to me. What design excellence looks like. So
it's a tricky situation.
Yeah.
But I think that's what keeps us in keeps construction interesting. We've got all these challenges. No two sites are generally the same.
Yeah.
We've got all these different requirements to meet, and that's what for me makes it exciting and makes it.
I'll let you in on one of our secrets.
Yeah.
It is that the more rules there are, the better for us, because I feel that the experience we've got across our studio can deal with it the best. So if the more rules you bring in, great. It just gives us different ways to maybe not get around things, but to maybe think left field on how we might solve. We're problem solvers. That's what architecture is, really, solving a problem. So if you give us more problems, we're just going to be working harder to solve those problems. You get a more creative outcome. That's the only way you can keep motivated to do it. Like, it doesn't stress me as much seeing all the rules come in, because it just makes me think harder. So
gets the creativity going.
That's the creativity side of things. Yeah, I guess that it makes it a lot more difficult to, or maybe a bit more time consuming. There is a cost there, because it takes you longer, but maybe it's a better outcome if you're pushing yourself a little bit harder to sort of solve that problem.
Yeah. Whenever there's rules involved, I feel like that's maximum creativity, or a time limit or something like that.
Yeah. That's why designing rural is easier.
Yeah.
Well, it should be easier. It's not.
Yeah.
Because you've got no rules.
Constraints.
There's no constraints.
No, I'm doing renovations at my house, and I was going to ask you this question, but I found it really difficult because I've seen so many different styles of everything. It's almost like you're just saturated with every different option possible.
Yeah.
And it's like, what do I do?
It's like Netflix, mate.
It's like exactly
Netflix.
like that.
If you have too many options, you end up just watching 10 seconds of every single preview and don't watch a show.
That's right.
There's nothing to watch. Well, there is.
Yeah, there's heaps. But
Give me less and I'll probably watch one of those.
Yeah, 100%.
Put Malcolm Douglas on, because that's just what's on at 2:00 on a Sunday afternoon.
Yeah. Go back 15 years ago. It was whatever was on TV Friday night. That's
what you watched.
Yeah.
That's what you watched.
Now it's not like that at all.
No. So it's the choices actually probably made it a little bit more difficult. And this sort of ties back into the client brief and expectations.
Yeah.
Because I think that's changed a lot too. So if there's something that we can do is, again, education around what shelter looks like, what a house looks like, what a home looks like, because they're all different things. I find this even with, say, first home owners. Now, there's this real push that it's hard to be a first home owner. A home isn't necessarily a house. I think you have to change your mindset about what your first home looks like and how you get your foot in the door. yes, it's always been expensive to own a house, but we've got options now. No, maybe you start a little bit smaller. Maybe it's an apartment to start with and goes to then maybe a 2-bedroom apartment, maybe then shuffle to a townhouse. You eventually build up to a house, but a first home isn't necessarily a house. So that affordability side of things, you can't really attach it to certain things where you go, well, it's unaffordable to buy your first home. It's not.
There's the home you want. It's
It's
unaffordable.
the home that your home that you think it should be a house.
Mm.
Maybe that's just not realistic. Maybe you need to tune your expectations a little bit of what that first home looks like. So I think there's a little bit of onus on us as humans, people, on what our expectations are. And that's definitely goes with briefs. You know, we've been very fortunate that we're in a space where we're designing some amazing homes and they are large, you know, and we still question
Very
our
large.
clients, on do you need this space? What do you need it for? Is there a multi-unit, like not a multi-unit, a multi-purpose space that might be able to do 3 of those things so you don't have like a space that's sitting there for 8 months of the year?
Yeah, theatre room and a games room and a this room and a that room.
Yeah, is it necessary, or is there a way that we can maybe build all that stuff into one space that's really usable and cut the size of the home down? Like a lot of the unaffordability definitely comes with the size of homes. Now, do we need all those spaces?
Mm.
What does the front room do anymore? Does anyone have a front room anymore? Like
Yeah, it is a cultural thing, isn't it? Like
yeah,
I think we have in our heads that our first home should be that white, or the Australian
picket
dream,
fence, yeah.
white picket fence with the big backyard for the kids to run around
Yeah.
in. And I guess what you're saying is we maybe need to take a bit of a step back and go, well, maybe your first house is an apartment in Braddon,
Yeah.
but you can go and see your friends on the weekend at the pubs and clubs.
You can go out on a Saturday night and you can walk home.
Yeah, and then from there, when you're ready to have kids, or
Yeah.
hopefully you've built up enough equity, you've saved some money, you can go and buy that house
Yeah, yeah.
potentially, or you can go and buy a townhouse or something like
And
that.
that's why the notion of a dream home for me is very fluid, because your dream home really should be what you need at that time.
At the time, that's a great
As
analogy.
opposed to it being this thing that you're stuck with for 30 years. I think the days of home ownership where you buy a house, you live in it for 30 years, you pay it off and you retire are gone.
Mm.
I don't know that there's too many people operating on that model anymore. I think you need to be able to adapt to your life situation. Life throws a whole lot of curveballs, and your situation will change many times over your lifetime. And your home really should be something that adapts to those changes. So building something now and going, this is my dream home. It's your dream home for now. Cool. And as long as it ticks those boxes now, then that's great. But it might not be in, say, 12 years' time. No, your situation might change. Life isn't that planned that you know what's going to happen most days, really. It will throw some curveballs, and you've just got to be, I guess, mindful that you can pivot with that, and your dream home could be something completely different because it suits your situation at that point in time.
That's such a good take. That's a very architectural take, that one.
Oh,
I really like it. Yeah. Just that high level thinking of, hey, take a step back, think about this in a long period of time, think about this in a short period of time. Your kids could move out in, 10 years, they could move out in 20 years.
Yeah.
You might need to adapt where you are and what you're doing and how you're living.
Yep.
Really quickly or really slowly. Depends.
The situation changes from the point that you start the brief with an architect to it being completed. Say it's 2.5 years, roughly. Now, it's about an 18-month build and about a year or so in the process of design and approvals. Your family can change, especially if you've got, say, 15-year-olds, 14-year-olds in the mid to early teens. They change so much in that time that they get to 18 and they're like, well, this situation doesn't work for us now, and we've just finished building the house.
It makes me think of Grand Designs, and like every episode of Grand Designs, like they'll have a child halfway through or something.
Yeah, feel like they've almost need to add to the narrative a little bit. Yeah,
100%. A question I ask everyone, right? And it is, what does better building actually mean to you? Is it design, collaboration, sustainability, or is it something else? I think better building is just such this buzzword, right? I think it means different things to different people.
Yeah, it does. I've got a longer view take on this, and it's probably more to do with my generation, I suppose. That coming through school, there was a real push for everyone to be professionals and go in and get a degree, a real big push. And we lost a generation of apprentices. So, that better building side of things, we've now got a situation where we've got some really young builders, not enough builders of my vintage, and then some really good older builders, and not enough to bridge the gap. So we're going to lose the older builders. We've only got some builders in that middle category of good building. And then we've got now a push from apprentice side coming through. So how do we bridge the gap of missing a whole generation of apprentices that were told that you're not good enough if you are on the tools? That's essentially what happened. It was seen as a second rate set up to then a white collar job, which is really unfortunate because I think that not everyone is built for university and that type of study, nor do you have to be. And we really missed a trick through all the industries and through schools pushing for people to have trade and learn some skills that now we're sort of going, well, how do we get better building? Well, you can't because you didn't train them
Way back when.
Now, this reminds me of a story. It's a marketing story that they had in Japan where they said, how do we get Japanese people drinking coffee?
Oh, I know this.
Have you heard this one?
I have. It's awesome.
And it's really embedding it for a generation in a cartoon so that when those kids got older, they then went, we're doing coffee because we know it. But it takes time, right? So there's no quick fix for better building because we lost a generation. So how do we get the younger guys now learning off the older guys with the help of the limited middle guys, carry that through so we are getting good building and good practices, and they've got the skills to sketch on frames as they're going and think about it as opposed to just doing it because that's how it was done.
Yeah.
That's how we've learned. Well, you need to adapt on site. Now, that's a really big thing about good building is you adapt on site to the current condition. Go, oh, this is what it says. I'm just going to do it like that. Well, that looks shit.
Yeah.
Like, can you adapt to going, well, let's think about how that detail goes together and maybe there's a different solution. So I think we need more street smarts, actually, instead of academic smarts, and a lot more training and nurturing of our younger guys coming through. That's probably one of my passions is that we need to see that apprentice side of things come through and not be just stuck on the academic learning. There's obviously a place for it and you need to know some stuff and read some stuff, I guess, but it doesn't need to be all that. And it's kind of the way we hire at DNA to a certain degree. I feel like first and foremost when we hire, it's personality. You know, can we have a chat with you? Are you chilled out? How do you respond to certain questions? Can you deal with a little bit of shit? Now, if we give you a little bit of heat, how do you respond to that in terms of just off the cuff sort of stuff? You know, will you push back or do you sort of go back into your shell? And it sort of gives you an idea of the personality type. I feel like the skill of what we do, you can teach. It's pretty straightforward to teach. So we always firstly hire on personality, and then we teach maybe the skill that we can see is lacking in and around that. I've taught at CIT before, and I made that conscious effort to do it at CIT because it was more of a hands-on course at CIT where we ran a building design unit where we gave the students a site that was available for sale on All Homes. This is our site. Now design something to the rules that we've got to design to every day. And what does that look like? And then you sort of can get people thinking about what the process is. Like design is 20% of the process of getting a house up and ready. So you need to understand that. I don't think you get a full appreciation for that in uni.
No.
You think that 98% of the time is design, and then you just deliver it in 2%. That's real world. It's about 20% of design, but it's got to be focused, good design thinking in that 20%, and then the rest is really just how do you deliver that design efficiently, coordinated, properly, well built. There's a whole lot of things that plug into it. So now teaching at CIT was a really good thing. We've got a whole lot of staff out of that that are working with us now. Out of that stint that I had at CIT for 2 years, we've got one of our directors I taught at CIT, and he's gone on to become an amazing designer that's now a director at DNA. So I think there's a lot to be said for practical street smart skills as opposed to ones that are taught in a book.
100%.
So,
I couldn't agree with you more. I think there's been times where, I've had some of my guys say, I built it to the plans, and it's like, yeah, but it doesn't, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, and I think that's what you're getting at, right? Is that ability to zoom out a little bit and be like, how does this work? Big picture.
And
how does this work right in there? And do I need to make some little tweaks? Do I have the street smarts to be able to go, hey, I need to talk to someone about this because I don't think this is going to be on the money.
Yeah.
I need to talk to the client. I need to talk to the site manager.
It's so easy to focus in on this bit.
100%.
And you go, oh, need to get that right. And then you look back at everything. You're like, was that even worth the effort for it doesn't affect anything else?
Yeah, we could.
Or holy crap, this affects everything, and I've just changed it.
And I think that's what that's what good design is, as well as being a good tradesman or a good builder, is being able to zoom out and take that holistic approach.
Yeah.
And I think intent has been the buzzword for this podcast.
Yeah, I think it has. Yeah.
But it just goes to show how important that word is and how important it is to the success of a project overall, right?
But you need to have flexibility too, right? Like intent's one thing, and I think if you don't have the flexibility and the want to pivot when you have to, then you get really stuck. And I think that's one of an architect's biggest downfalls is they're not willing to pivot or be flexible on certain things because they're very much focused on maybe a smaller detail as opposed to the bigger picture. And
I'm guilty of that. I'll focus on like so hardcore and a little bit.
And I'm not a detail guy.
So you're not a detail guy.
I'm probably if I was to put myself in a category, it'd be holistic, big picture. What does that look like? And then the detail, you should have the right people around you that are good at that stuff and that enjoy it, that can maybe output that. If you don't, then you should, if that's not your thing. And I think that's how I approach it, that if that's not my skill set, I'm not going to force myself to be that way. I want people around me who are smarter than me. I don't want to be the smartest person in the room. That's mayhem.
Yeah.
So that's why when we hire, we try and get different skill sets across our staff.
Do you think that's why DNA is so good? Is that the?
Well, you said that, not me.
I
think so. I mean, we've, like I said, Ross and Glenn have been doing it for 25 years. 25 years for us next year, and I think they set up the business on a no bullshit policy, and I think that's still pretty evident today. That what you see is what you get, and there's probably no bullshit behind what we do. We don't pretend to be an architects because we're not. I think the way we design, the way we approach things is at times unorthodox, but thought through.
I think, and just going back to what I just mention is that if you look at the scoreboard, DNA Architects has been around for a long time. They've been a big part of every awards that I can ever remember. The first award I won was with Glenn. He designed the backyard of a house in Pierce.
Oh, there you go.
And it was really impressive to go in and sit down and, I felt like the red carpet was rolled out for me, and we got to really talk about how everything would go together. And I felt like they were invested in me and how the success of the project.
Yeah.
And I feel like I hadn't really experienced that before working with other designers.
And I'm hoping that other guys do that as well. But and we obviously don't work with them the same way that I guess we work with our clients. But for us, the people, I mean, our motto is design driven, people focused, right? And that sort of underlies most of the stuff that we do is that the people come first. And then if we can have a good rapport with who we're working with, it makes for a really good project, but also an open and honest one. If we can have a beer with you at the end of a project, it's a successful project. That's how I would mark a successful project, is that we've finished the house and the builder, the client, the architects, the tradies, we can hang out and have a beer and celebrate it. Great. That's my level. The awards are lovely, and it's a really good recognition for us of our work and what we do. But there are projects that haven't won awards where the satisfaction of that project is way bigger than ones that we've won awards for. So I think that's how I'd probably say a successful project for me is one where I'm comfortable to turn up to a afternoon that the builders put on going, hey, we finished a project, come have a beer with us, and the client's going to be there. That's successful for me.
100%.
So,
and I feel like what you're saying is you get there through really good communication the whole way through, putting your client first, putting the builder first, and working together as a team to.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost how I'll talk for myself personally. Approach my design work is that the design of the home should almost be a backdrop to everything else. That designing a house, the landscape really is what is the wow, right? You want the house to almost be the backdrop to this wow landscape. But then inside the house, you want the people to feel something. You want emotion when people are in that space, because it's been thought through. It resonates with them. Why you've done it a certain way, because you've had a discussion about, hey, we're calling this house X because it was important for you that this was your childhood friend who's passed away and you're building back in that suburb, and that's why we've called this house the name it is. And that when they walk in that door every time, that memory resonates with them. And I think the narrative for me is so important about why someone wants to do a new house or a renovation or a home. Why do you want to do it? Because we want to build that into the essence of, and that's not to do with the floor plan. No.
The narrative
that's the programming.
The narrative is the story that gets told at the dinner table
100%.
every single time you have friends.
You have a strong narrative.
Exactly. Yeah.
People resonate with that, and it's an emotional experience when you walk in that door. So if we can get that and work that out,
that's the magical thing. That is.
I mean, I do weird stuff like ask clients, and it sounds weird. What music are you listening to at the moment, or what's your favorite music? Because I'll put that on sometimes and go, okay, well, let's sort of try and get into where their head's at the moment, or the type of music that they like listening to. And now, does this space, if they wanted to put that song on, does it work for it? Like if it's Jimmy Barnes, can you open everything up, and does it have the right acoustics for him to be cooking on the barbecue, listening to Barnesy, have the kids jumping in the pool? Does it work for that type of, and that's a feeling. That's not something physical that you can sort of sit down and work out in a floor plan. It's a vibe.
But that is that is in essence what architecture is.
It should be.
I know when I walk into a house, it's been really well thought out and designed, and there's been so much thought go into it. It immediately puts a smile on your face. Like without even thinking about it, you're look at that wall, look at that kitchen, look at these little things, or look at way that window's framed that tree perfectly outside.
Yeah.
It looks fake. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like, these are the things we're
Absolutely.
talking about.
Yeah, it is. It is absolutely the stuff that we're talking about. And I've been very fortunate, I suppose, with our place that my wife has been one supportive of a stupid idea that I had, that we weren't meant to buy a property and that was unserviced and build. We were just meant to buy something. That she was very supportive of that wild idea, and that we were on the same page for a lot of it, because we are. And she pushed boundaries on certain things that I wasn't comfortable with. I'm like, bright red sheds. Why would you? And I look at it now, like, that was the right answer. It got me out of my comfort zone. But we sit in our place now and go, you know what? I'm so glad that we took the chance on certain things, or we looked at it the way that we did, because now we're actually using it the way that we had thought. Sometimes I just sit down and go, holy crap, like I can't comprehend it. Maybe we got it right.
Yeah.
Like, for what we needed it now, this is exactly what we had in mind. So that's
a cool feeling, though.
That is, yeah. And that's, I guess, the feeling that would hope for all our clients to have when they walk into the home, that it doesn't feel like a chore, that it was worth the effort that we went through, the design process, the briefing process, the build process, and that we're enjoying it the way that we had been told we would enjoy it, and the way that we had thought we would enjoy it. So, yeah.
Here's a tough question for you. How do you balance creative vision with commercial realities? we're on the behind the studio walls part of the chat, which is really about business. And we've spoken about DNA's philosophy, and we've spoken about the business of building.
Well, if the commercial reality doesn't stack up, there's no project. So that's really the first point of call. And this probably is more medium density, multi-unit, mixed use, commercial, industrial. They're very metrics driven. Homes, slightly different. There's still obviously a budget. And I think there's a way that you can get that to work in terms of materials and finishes and fixtures and things. There's a few more variables. Whereas when you get into the medium density stuff, the commercial stuff, the industrial stuff, there is some really clear things that have to work for it to stack up. And if you don't get the fundamentals right, you're screwed. No, people think that industrial isn't really a glamour project. I would say that you're completely wrong, because it probably is the one topology that makes the most amount of money. But if you don't get the fundamentals of industrial right, it'll cost you money, because that circulation.
It's more form over function.
It's the metrics that make industrial usable, and a product. Now we do a good chunk of industrial work. I would say between Glenn and myself, Glenn probably does 80% of the industrial stuff around town. And I did a lot of my stuff with Glenn when I first started at DNA. And now still do that industrial work, because it's fundamentally important, and it's a really good training ground to teach our staff detailing, of how steel structure goes together, how portal frames work, how you can, and there's flexibility in industrial design, because you can get details to work a certain way, and it's quite easy because it's all pre-made, and it turns out site you can just bolt it together. So as long as you get the detail right at the design stage, it can work. With industrial work, it's how do you maneuver trucks? Is it B doubles that are coming in here? Is it 8-meter vans? Is it Pantex? Is it 12-meter rigids? The turning circle is important. Does the driver have cover if it's raining and an awning to get out and do what he needs to do? Sign things. So it's very much a functional thing. How do you get it to function, but still be innovative enough that it feels like an architecturally responsive building? And that's not to do with aesthetics. It is partly to do with aesthetics, but it's to do with the function, and does that actually function the way it's meant to for that purpose? So it's very interesting.
So there's definitely more to consider there than you see a shed in
Yeah,
back of
it
it.
looks like a shed,
Yeah.
but
There's
no.
way more thought out than that.
Yeah, I mean the construction type. No, if we're going to keep to Type C construction where we don't have to do sprinklers and all that sort of stuff, there's a certain threshold that you have to be a Type C construction, fire compartments. How do you then easily and flexibly go? This could be 1 tenner or it could be 8.
Adapt. Yeah.
You need to be able to pivot, and your client needs to be able to make the maximum from that investment. And if you don't see it that way, and you see it as a opportunity to just design a pretty shed, you've missed the point. So it's super important that commercial reality is there, and that as an architect, it's your responsibility to design something that fits within a budget. No, yeah, we can.
I like that you said that.
I mean, I can design something for a shed that's thousands of dollars. I could put zinc shingles on a shed, and it would look beautiful.
If it fails the commercial,
But it doesn't tick the commercial viability side of things off. So if it's not commercially viable, it's not a project for your client or for you. So it becomes really difficult. So I think there's definitely a balance there. But you need to know, I don't know if this is the saying that would fit this, but I'm going to say it anyway. You need to know the rules to break the rules. So if you don't know how far you can push something.
Yeah, you need to know the constraints.
What are the constraints, right? You can never go past them because you don't know what they are. So that the same goes for the commercial viability. You need to sort of understand what the budget is, what the client's vision is for this. Is it an investment? Is it an owner-occupier? Is it a start-off owner-occupier and then we'll eventually rent it out, or vice versa?
A lot of things to consider in it.
So much to consider. But if you can give them maximum flexibility, and I'm just talking specifically about the industrial stuff, great. Whereas multi-unit, different kettle of fish. The yield's important.
Yeah.
So how many can you fit on here? Can we then meet all the other rules if we fit that many on here? Is it better to have less that you can sell at a higher price or more at a lower price? Are you competing against yourself with the mix that you've got in this precinct where everything's a 1-beddy study and you've got 60 of them as opposed to a 2-beddy and a studio? So you've got then a different demographic you're picking up with a different mix of apartments. Is there townhouses in there? Does it get the right demographic and the right feel for a precinct not having any townhouses because maybe you don't get the family feel that might need to balance out the other 40 apartments you got? So there's a lot to consider.
There's so much to consider there.
And this is all very, I guess for me, psychological, and trying to think about it in a certain way with demographics, suburb, feel, vibe. And that's really, there's a real social economics side of it that needs to be considered on top of the commercial viability, and to balance it out and have a pretty real-time view of what the build cost is. And that's having conversations with people like yourself, other builders in different setups, like, what did you build that for? What do you want to sell it for? Are you building it at 3.5 and trying to sell it at 8? Or you're building it at 3.5 and selling it for 4.5 a square meter? What does that sort of look like?
Is that the business of building to you?
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah. I think you need to appreciate how the life cycle of a building, and that if you don't get the front end of the feasibility right, there's no building. And if I was to jump back into what you're saying, what's the problem with the planning system and how things are working at the moment? Outside of the red tape, I suppose it's hard to get things stacking up, and it's because of the red tape that it's hard to stack up commercially, and they're sort of really jamming against each other. So if you can't get that front end around, no one has a project. Now, you could have had, well, I mean, you take the Dairy Road instance at the moment. It's just madness. Are we going to not have anything because we're appealing something that was already gone through ACAT? Like, what are we talking about here? Like, it's just madness.
It is.
So you'd rather have nothing of nothing or something of less. Like, it's I don't know. Like, you're almost, again, shooting yourself in the foot with this is what the outcome we want is more housing, but we're going to beat you with a stick for it.
Yeah.
Doesn't make sense.
It's,
Usually there's an incentive. If you want someone to do something, you incentivize it.
Mhm.
It's just common sense.
And-
So we need the incentive. And I think that's what we're searching for. That if there's no incentive, there's no reason. I mean,
Isn't it a weird place we are at the
oh,
moment?
it's crazy.
Like,
I
we're
mean,
obviously talking Canberra specific and maybe not Canberra specific, but I'd say Canberra specifically at the moment. My take on it is like, yeah, the government's saying housing crisis. You've got the supply of land. It's almost like you're
you
creating.
don't even need the supply of land if you're talking about brownfield sites.
True. Yeah, that's
Like,
true.
That's sitting,
Mm.
waiting
Ready to
for
go.
someone to do it.
Yeah.
Like, just mobilize those private developers. Developers get a bad name for all they do is think about greed, money. You know
They-
what? That's the job. Their job is not to be greedy. Their job is that it needs to make a profit. And if you're a director of a development company, in the best interest of that company and that business, you need to be making money. For anyone that's a director of anything. That's
yeah.
the outcome. So them making money shouldn't be something that's then gone, well, no, you're not allowed to make money, but you need to deliver housing. No one's going to do it. So the guys that want to do it, you're not letting do it. And there's no one else doing it. Whereas the government can't afford to do it by themselves. So it really needs to be a cooperation to be able to do this. And I see this even with the trees side of things. We're getting to a point where some of those older suburbs and older trees are getting to the end of life.
Mm.
It just seems like madness that we're trying to keep some of this stuff instead of going, when there's a development, let's get rid of that 130-year tree perhaps that's not in great health and just plant 6 new ones. We're almost getting an automatic renewal with the government not paying for any of it. Just
I think there's some new stuff coming in next year about that.
yeah, there is. Yeah, I did hear about this. So in terms of
But you're right.
the infrastructure.
And where it comes down to is, in my opinion, is communication again.
Yeah.
Like we need to be able to talk about these problems so that we can come up with solutions because the government does want more housing and we've got some stuff there and we've got builders and everyone ready to go and designers ready to go.
But you've got to have everyone on the same page, right? And I think that's a difficulty with talking to certain levels of government that they don't necessarily have the ability to make the call. They need to convince others that this is the right direction, which doesn't make it nimble and it makes it a process, and which is why it gets drawn out for as long as it does. So
we just need some people in there to making decisions. We're doing this, we're doing that.
We're just going to do it.
Yeah.
It seems like it's a little bit ignorant, but sometimes ignorance is bliss. Yeah. And you're going to make mistakes with it too. But if you can learn from those mistakes, at least you took a chance.
What's your leadership style, AJ?
I don't know. Have you got some options?
I ask a lot of people this question and it stumps everyone.
I think it's
in your business. How do you lead? How do you lead through difficult times? How do you lead through good times? In your assessment, and you think about.
Interesting. I think not everyone wants to do what I do. I think that's probably the first thing that I have to tell myself when you respond to certain situations. Not everyone wants to do what you want to do, and you've made this call. What you're doing now is something you dreamt of doing, and you're actually living it out. So that's your call. But don't put that expectation on someone else that they need to be doing it the same way as you, because they may not have that same dream. They may not be wanting to do it the same way. So something that we try and do is maybe understand the personality types. There's so many different personality types, and we try and get a feel for what people's personality types are and respond that way. In terms of leadership style, I would say if I was to pick one, it'd be lead by example, as opposed to force people to do what you want them to do. No one ever, if they don't want to do it, you're never going to force them to do it and everyone's going to be unhappy. It just doesn't work.
You're not going to get the outcome you want.
They're not going to feel like they're valued. As you sort of get more experience, I suppose, you get a better feel for that in maybe how you respond, and you can't necessarily demand that people follow you. the people that want to follow will, and the others you deal with differently. No, it's not always a career for someone. It's not always something that they want to become a director or a business owner. That's not everyone's cup of tea, which is fine. No, we've got so many different levels in our studio of what employees want to be or what they aspire to be. Some people it's just a job, and that's completely fine. That it's just a job, but make sure we're doing the job the best we can. We're not asking, it's
Yeah. You have to take everyone on their different personalities and character
Strength.
traits, strengths, weaknesses.
skills.
But how does that work when, say, you've been given a brief by a client and say Emily goes over and works on this design for a week and comes back and it's nothing like the brief. It's not. Do you know what I mean? Like it's just way different to what you're expecting or expecting. Is that something? Is that tricky? That must be tricky for you to deal with.
Now, my wife tells me don't have any expectations, and I think
Yeah.
that's bullshit because everyone's got expectations, right?
Yeah.
To a certain degree, you've
It's
got
like saying, "Don't
expectations.
breathe."
Yeah, everyone's got expectations. I think you have to. Same that we've been talking about through this whole process is be the last to speak. Maybe let them explain, where they've come from and why it's the way it is, and then how do you respond to that? Respond instead of react is probably my leadership style. I'd like to think, which is not always the case. Sometimes I do react, and I'm sure the other directors and our staff will attend to that. But,
it can be difficult to
it can be.
hold your emotions in when you're like, oh my God, I've said this and you've done the opposite.
Yeah. I think something I've learned across the years is maybe to have those conversations off the floor. Not every conversation is for the floor.
Yeah.
You have to have the conversation. That's cool. Maybe not in front of everyone. I think that's important. Sometimes there's instances where everyone needs to hear it as well, but it's not. It's you try and make it that it's more of a learning experience as opposed to a mistake. And I think mistakes are fine. It means people are taking some risks and trying stuff. I think you have to make them. Otherwise, you don't learn anything. So, I think my leadership styles maybe changed over the years.
I think it is. I think it is ever changing because you're constantly looking back at the way that you've dealt with certain things that may have happened or things that may have occurred.
Yeah.
And you're going, I didn't really do that right, And in that design space as well, you don't want to dim someone's.
But you've got to own that, right?
Yeah.
And you don't necessarily see it until maybe 2 or 3 years later or 10 years later. You go, what was I thinking? Like that's absolute madness.
Yeah.
Or you know what? That was the right approach, and I did it the best way I could at the time with the information I had. That's how I approached it. So yeah. I don't know if I'd be. I don't know if I'd be laid back. I don't think laid back is my leadership style. I think
not mine.
It's probably lead by example. If people can see I work hard, I suppose. I'd like to think that I work hard and make sure that things are done the right way. Whether that's in architecture or with anything that I do. Like I struggle with, I'm going to throw another saying at you. It's
I love them.
I think it's do what you would do when no one's watching as if someone was watching. And it really makes you think about how you conduct yourself when no one's watching. And do you still hold yourself to that same level? And I do that with work, everything, is that if you're doing something because people are watching and you're doing it the right way because people are watching, why aren't you doing it when no one's watching? Like you need to hold yourself to that standard. So I think that's something that's important to me is that if you're doing stuff, do it like people are watching. And then you can hold yourself to a standard. And it's different standard for different people. It's not a standard that you expect. It's just, I expect myself to be like this. And this is how I act when I'm in public. And if I'm doing the same task when no one's watching, I should be still doing the same thing, not changing that because no one's watching me. So that's probably how I approach things.
There's a psychology thing in there, which is around you get similar results on, when people are around, say, and people are not. So if you are constantly holding the line or holding your standard, you can get into a really good flow state, I think, as well. And you're not having to, I guess, second guess yourself because there's something to fall back on, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's really difficult as a person to uphold a standard that you don't believe in and that it's just for show. Be who you are because it's a lot easier. There's no fakeness about it. If your leadership style or the way you approach things is like this, that's fine. But maybe there needs to be some refinement around how you communicate, for example. So I think it's important that you are who you are in that realm, because I think faking it makes it very difficult to fake it forever. The true person eventually sort of comes out, and sometimes, it's just not worth the
hassle
the
of
hassle,
trying
the
to be
outcome,
something you're not.
being something that you're not. Just let's work with who you are.
It can be exhausting though.
Oh, it can. Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's where you're getting at, is that eventually you'll just revert back to X, Y.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's important at DNA.
Yeah, I think so. I think we encourage people to bring their personalities. A lot of the time people will, from what you wear to how you are at, we have since day dot done lunches for everyone during the week. We'll get groceries and everyone eats together. For us, I think a big part of that is if you can share a meal with someone, you open up and you have a lot more honest conversations and
breaking bread. Yeah,
breaking bread. So that's an important thing for our business that we do.
Really good for team culture too, wouldn't it be?
It is, yeah. And I think you get to talk about other people's home life. You talk about sometimes it's project work, sometimes it's just random stuff like put the F1 on. Let's see what's going on with that. So it's nice to be able to do that. And it's something that we've really, there was a little bit of a push, I guess, a few years back that, is it something that people find useful or worthwhile, and why aren't people wanting to do it? Why don't people want to sit and chat and it came down to the personality types of people that we had there that didn't necessarily buy into that type of that culture. And I think that culture is important for us, that we're on the same page culture-wise and personality-wise, which then opens everything else up that we can communicate better. So yeah, that's
more creativity can happen in those areas, right?
But also you get to hear other people's stories. Like, you want to know what your colleagues are doing. Like, it's not like this is just a workplace. And I'm really reluctant to use the term family because family gets taken for granted. And I don't feel like we want that to be, but it does have that feel where you've close enough and open enough that it feels like that family unit where people are comfortable in the studio to be who they are. So yeah, I guess that's something that's important to us.
What's the long-term vision for DNA Architects?
Good question. That's something that we've been sort of meditating on, I suppose, for the last little bit, coming up to 25 years. I've been there since 2007, so a good chunk of that time as well. I went away from DNA and came back in that role, and that was purely a me thing because I think I just needed to bring a different skill set to what we already had, which I was able to do, and I think hopefully successfully. What's next for DNA is, I think what you've actually said today about how maybe the public sees DNA or other people see DNA is something that we're not always privy to. And it's actually very humbling to hear, people talk about that. So, I think we're very passionate about being accessible and open to people. Without people, for us, it doesn't motivate us. There's obviously commercial realities, and if you thought about all the things that went along with owning and running a business, you just never do it.
Yes,
But
you're
it's
right.
it's that rapport and the people that we work with that keep driving us. I think it would be to work on projects with people that we love working on projects with. We're in a very fortunate position where we can make that call now that and we work on projects that we enjoy and people we enjoy working with, and that we can do more of that. Yeah, would we like to be a well-known international practice? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we've done international projects. We've done national projects. I guess we don't necessarily take ourselves as architects as seriously as others do. We just see ourselves as people that fit into that collective team to deliver something, and we're just part of that. And we just enjoy being part of it. And if we can deliver international and national projects, yeah, why not? Yeah, I think
That's
that.
something you're looking to do more of, or is
Yeah,
that?
absolutely. I think so. I mean, no, we've by nature done predominantly stuff in Canberra, the coast, and just outside regional. And we'd love to do more of that stuff, obviously. This is our bread and butter, but no, there's no reason we can't work nationally and internationally.
Yeah,
It's just
definitely.
having the opportunities and being around for so long and that consistency. I think consistency is important, and that's something that both Ross and Glenn have brought to the business. Is they are consistently year on year switched on and know their shit, and you have to be,
I,
because otherwise it's not continued or sustained success.
and I think that's why you've been a part of so many successful awards evenings, and you've won so many awards, is because, and from my experience, we've won a few, but I understand how much work is involved into it.
Yeah.
And seeing that DNA have won so many awards over so many years just shows that consistency year on year. You know,
And that's important for us. I mean, it's something that it's never lost on me the day of or the day before an awards night where our staff are excited that we're going to win something, and you're like, this is not a given. Like, this is an absolute privilege to one, have something in there, and then two, to actually win it. So it's great that you guys are excited, absolutely, but please don't take this as we're granted that we're going to win this award, because it's not. We've just been in a really fortunate position that we have, to be honest. And it's easy to get lost there because of the consistency, because we have won projects year on year that you go, well, we'll just win next year. Not really.
Yeah, yeah.
You're only as good as your competition, and that's why I was saying to you that
Correct.
if the competition's not good, is it any worth winning? Like, sort of a bit of a hollow win, right? Like, you want to be pushing hard against the best.
Yeah, definitely. And as soon as the awards come out, you're looking at every other different design.
Yeah.
You know, you want to be pushed. I think in business, that's a really cool thing. That's where I want to push forward. That's where I want to do better.
Yeah.
That's where I want to innovate more. That's where I want to win for my clients more.
Yeah.
You know?
But I think being humble in loss as well is super important. No,
super difficult, super important.
Yeah. Like at an awards night, if you don't win, so be it.
Yeah.
Like, go over, chat to the guys that won, congratulate them. Like, I think that's really important, especially with how close knit the construction community is in Canberra. That you really just need to suck it up. Like, it's that's something that they've worked hard for, and you should really be celebrating their success, not just always celebrating yours. And
not forgetting you're a finalist.
So. Well, you've done something to get to this point, right? But also, I've been so fortunate that when we have won, the amount of support that we get is second to none. Like, I think that's something that is very underestimated, that people are actually genuinely happy for you.
Yeah.
And that's lovely. So I think that should be reciprocated when you don't win, that you're genuinely happy that a project and a builder or a design firm did that project and they did it well.
Mm.
It's a good thing.
We better keep moving. We've been
Yeah.
going. We're on to the quick fire round.
Okay.
And we're going to wrap it up and bring
All
it
right.
home. What's one tool that you can't live without?
Trace paper.
Trace paper.
Yeah.
You still sketch everything out?
Yeah. So all our design work is predominantly yellow trace. Yeah.
And there's a couple of different iterations, and then
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
you're sort of overlaying and trying different things from floor plans to elevations to streetscapes. It's all hand sketch for us. We're all still on the drawing board.
Yep.
So yeah, it's something I probably couldn't
couldn't move away from.
Yeah, I think I'd struggle with that. That hand-eye coordination is still something that's really important for me.
Yeah. What's the biggest myths? Oh, I can't even say it. What's the biggest myth about architects you'd like to bust?
That we just wear black all the time. Very mindful that I turned up in a black t-shirt today. That we take ourselves really seriously, and I think there needs to be a blend of being able to take the piss sometimes, because it just helps with your relationships.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Helps the communication flow.
Yeah, I think so. I think you kind of need to break the ice and not feel like you're superior to anyone else on the team. I think that is a myth and also a truth in architecture, that we feel superior to the rest of the team.
That's a really good take. I like that.
Yeah.
What's one thing you'd fix in the industry tomorrow if you could?
LVC.
LVC? Gone?
Not gone.
Just
No.
reduced?
I think it needs to be a common sense approach to it. I don't think gone is the right answer, because there is a whole lot of things that rely on the income of LVC. But there is a common sense approach to getting it to a point that just mobilises a whole lot of projects. It's just, yeah.
It's a tax that doesn't necessarily need to be as high as it is, right? And for those people
It
that
can
don't
be
know,
considered, yeah.
just explain what LVC is.
Lease variation charge, because we're a leasehold system in Canberra.
Yep.
If you want to vary anything on it to add purposes, then you pay a certain amount to change it.
So if you do a dual locky, if you do multi-res, all these kinds of things, you need to change the lease and make that. Yeah, that's where you get hit with a big cost.
And this is obviously because it's obviously a topic in the media at the moment.
Yeah.
It's,
big buzzword.
it is
Missing middle, LVC.
Yeah.
The two things that go together.
Yeah.
Best advice you've ever received, AJ?
I think I told you what it was before. It was be the last to speak in the room, so you can have a considered response.
I think that's a really important one.
Yeah.
What advice would you give your younger self?
Oh, that's interesting. I would take the year after year 12. Don't be so set on establishing yourself and being older than you are. There's a little bit of time.
It's always interesting to look back on.
Get the experience under your belt, actually.
Yeah.
And that can be in a whole variety of ways, whether it's being on the tools, whether it's traveling and understanding other cultures, whether it's traveling and understanding other people that you're not necessarily used to communicating with. Do something that's a little bit outside of your comfort zone. So yeah, I would say not growing up too quick.
That's a good one. I like it. What's your favorite thing to do outside of work?
There's a few things, and they all sort of take very close priority. I do enjoy tinkering on Japanese cars. That's one of those things.
Nice.
Raiders stuff, because
I was about to say you haven't mentioned the Raiders once yet.
No, I haven't.
I haven't.
So it's footy, or otherwise travel. Yeah, they're probably the three key things.
Three.
Yeah, and I haven't spoken about my wife or the kids or anything like that, but they plug into all of those things in different ways.
100%. I think, these are things that you like to do and your family are with you at all these things,
And hopefully it's vice versa with things that they enjoy doing, that you sort of plug into those things as well, and sort of show what each other's passions are. And I think that's important.
Definitely. This is going back to the builder question. I've been
No, I don't know any good builders.
You don't know any good builders? The question is, who is your favorite builder and why?
Is it?
And that was Paul Kerr, who said,
That doesn't surprise me.
He said, if it's not me, ask him why.
It's Dean Hessenberg.
Dean Hessenberg, got it. Perfect. Is there anyone you think that would be interested in coming on the podcast, or do you want to give someone a shout out?
Yeah, I think there's industry-wise.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyone in construction, really.
I reckon if you haven't had him on or you haven't thought about it, Justin Whitecross.
Yeah.
From Absolute Approvals. He is
Yeah.
a certifier. He's doing some really good work around town. Lovely guy, and has some really good insight on some of the stuff that we've talked about, and I think you'd be interested in.
100%.
Yeah.
I'm really keen to get a certifier and talk to him. They're all
Have a chat to Justin. He's charismatic enough that you won't fall asleep during the during the responses.
If people want to get in touch with you, best way to do that is?
You can send me an email.
Yep. Check out the DNA Architects website.
Check out the DNA Architects website, our socials. We're on Insta. We're on Facebook. We've got YouTube channel. We've got a whole lot of stuff that we do a lot. Very proud of getting our work up there. Email won't be on the website, so my email address is aj@dnaa.com.au. Flick me an email.
Go from there.
Yeah, go from there.
Perfect. What's one quote or mindset that keeps you going through the tough days?
I'd like to quote Talladega Nights.
Here we go.
If you're not first, you're last.
Perfect. AJ, thank you so much for coming on. I've really enjoyed this.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me on.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers.